Hello and welcome to Tech Talk. Me, Anthea, will co-host for me, Kenton Milroy.
Okay, welcome back to another Tech Talk episode. I mean, one special episode from Asia Pacific Network or losing out them APNIC 46. We held lo Numi and Nouvelle Calédonie. And we start for several days. Last week, about all workshops. This week, conferences. And you got all different speakers where we come all over the Asia and all over Pacific. And some only come globally. Lotis fala interview, you got with them, Martin Winter. And Matthew Winter, one very technically savvy person lo side lo computer. Been work planted lo US and originally lo Switzerland. But then travel all over Asia Pacific and plus the US and Europe lo make all cool technological work lo area problem. So Martin Winter, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to hear.
It's a great experience here in APNIC 46 in Nume. There were so many new things that I learned personally, and when you introduced yourself to me, you talk about a very cool project that you're working on. Tell us about the project, and but firstly tell us about yourself, what you've been doing, and how it leads on to this project, open source project you're working on.
Okay, so the project you talk about is the FR routing. So, but before I talk that, yes, so for myself, so my name is Martin Winter. I work basically for a non-profit company, a US non-profit. It's called NetDev, Network Device Education Foundation. I started that company myself about 5 years ago. And I basically had a background that I used to work at a large ISP. I broke too many issues with routers, I found problems all the time. Then Cisco hired me in. I spent 10 years at Cisco. They asked me to help them fixing some of their issues. After 10 years I gave up, but I said I want to do open source because I feel sometimes in open source you can be more honest. I can do things what the end user wants and not what maximizes profit. And since then basically I work on open source, basically mostly living on donations and writing open source software for everyone to use and trying to basically do the best thing there. So the project itself is called FR routing, which is a fork, which is basically just more or less name change or something from another project which was Quagga, which was an open source routing daemon too. And that started quite some time back, I would say probably at least 15-16 years back or something. Okay. It's quite an old code. It's basically, it implements the routing protocols which are used on the internet, like on all the routers. So for the more technical audience, it does like the routing protocols like from RIP to OSPF to BGP, it does MPLS, it does all the different routing protocols basically. You mentioned some people may not that familiar what routing really is. So in general, I think the best way to think what a router is a network is like you may have like a home box at home which has like an internet and Wi-Fi, and you think that's a router. It's normally for me it's more like a box which has more than two interfaces. If it goes wireless in and cable out the other side, that's basically just passing through. But a normal router has normally multiple places, so you need a packet comes in on the internet, has an IP address, and you look where does it go out and something.
And then it intelligently manages so that the packets do not lose along the way, those kind of things?
Yeah, the router normally doesn't care. That's more the higher level protocol where you make sure that you retransmit or something. The router in general, yes, you don't want to drop anything, but the router itself doesn't care about correcting any of these things. If a packet somewhere gets lost because there is a buffer which is too small or connections is too slow and it can't send it out or something, then that's normally the application which will then send it again afterwards.
So you develop this routing solution.
Yes.
And you use open source. Open source is this catchy phrase, term that used to define the philosophy behind people who think, some people see open source as a scary thing, but it's not.
It's interesting. So first of all, our open source, the main users are not really individuals, they are mainly corporations. Large companies.
Like?
Basically we have like from companies who building routers based on it, so Cumulus Networks is like one of the founding there. We have VMware who basically supports us now too. There is a lot of other large ones very large ones who unfortunately do not want to mention their name. We are started pushing some of them, but so that's kind of sad. But from that point, it's like there are a lot of large companies out there who really are using it as in the core of the network. So think about any cloud network, anyone who does like large virtual machines or something, who needs routers or something,
data centers
or something. A lot of them already using it or are planning to move to.
Okay, so
but I mean, back to the open source, when people say it's caring, many people have sometimes still the impression open source is done by a bunch of people who do it as a hobby and have no support, and it may not work reliable or something like that. And when we started there, we really tried to, basically at the beginning when I used to work on Quagga before too, so the fork was only 1.5 years ago before I worked on the Quagga. We tried to fix a lot on the testing and spend a lot of time there because we really wanted a commercial usable project as it is. And we spend a lot of time to building up test infrastructure, automated test networks and everything to test that. There is a lot of people, obviously, there are not that many people as a hobby work on it. There are a few, but most of similar like in Linux development, a lot of people, they have their day job, they work for one of these companies like Cumulus I mentioned before. They have multiple people who work full time on the FR routing and basically get paid by Cumulus for this.
When it comes to developing such project, taking personal fit to go in this like not from my full-time job, it's going, I want to have this and contribute to the community and develop this open source project. Or what comes into, are you nervous of leaving a full-time job at Cisco and then going out and building this open source project by taking your personal initiative? Are you nervous or are you excited, and what drives you?
Actually, it was more the other way around, because I was excited to move over, and mainly for me personally was the issue that a lot of companies these days are like this, really secrecy. If you are working open source, everyone in the world will see exactly what you're doing it. Okay. And when you later look for like job security, I mean, even at that time I was still working in the US and there are layoffs on any large company on a regular interval, so your job is never for granted. You don't know how much longer you may have your job, and even if you do an excellent work. And it helps a lot when you on open source working where everyone can see what you work, and companies are way more likely to interested in hiring you. I can say everyone who works for our company got like multiple offers from all the large companies. They tried to hire us away all the time because it's not a single interview, they have to base the decision. They can look back and see exactly what that person did and everything. So in general, yes, it may be a bit hard because frequently normally you get less money, but on the other side, you get your name out and something and you get a chance. And especially if you're talking about here somewhere in an area where you may not have the chance to get directly hired by a company like Google or something. We have some of our employees are living somewhere in the southern part of Brazil, like who work for us. They didn't really have that many other opportunities to work on this cool thing. But by now they all got offers too from like companies like Google or something for even working from remote, just because they found out about them from working there. So I think it's from that point, it's very interesting career move too if someone is dedicated to work on it. Because you can prove yourself first, and it makes for a company much easier afterwards to approach the person and make you an interesting offer.
It proves your aptitude towards what you're doing, and then it proves how passionate and committed you are in doing this.
And especially if you have then some history, I mean, they can also they can look at your code, because your code may have your name in there all the time. They can see like the discussions you did there online and everything. It's all in the public. There's nothing secret about it.